tackling single-use plastics. Now, recently, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, in one of his addresses, has spoken about the need to go ahead and influence the human behavior as far as tackling the menace of single-use plastic is concerned. He says that the focus has to be on bringing in those behavioral changes in dealing with the problem of plastic. So today we're going to talk about how to deal with the problem of plastic, how big is this problem, and what are the different challenges and solutions to those challenges. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Mr. R. Ramanan. He's Mission Director of the Atal Innovation Mission in Niti Aayog. We also have with us Professor C.K. Varshney, environmentalist and former Dean of the School of Environmental Sciences in JNU. And Dr. Sunil Pandey is also with us, Senior Fellow and Director, Environment and Waste Management Division in TERI. Welcome, all of you gentlemen, to Rajya Sabha Television. Let's begin with the basic question, that is, how big is the problem of single-use plastic or plastic waste as well? And let me start with Professor Varshney. Professor Varshney?
Well, plastic is a very serious problem, and we are using plastic in a big way. In fact, we are addicted to plastics. So this addiction of plastics has now created a serious problem. And you know, every year we are producing about 300 million metric tons of plastic. And in India, in 2018, we have produced 18.7 million tons of plastic. 50% of this plastic is roughly the single-use plastic, which means that small bags and so on and so forth. So this is a problem. I will just enumerate very briefly. There are three kinds of problem that it creates. First, it creates a blight on the landscape. Secondly, it produces unhygienic condition. And thirdly, and most importantly, is it reduces soil fertility. It is a cause of flood, and it impedes the water seepage into the soil. That we need very, very dearly, which is very important for agriculture, for drinking purposes, and for our water mission of providing water. So I think all these things are very serious. The water which should go to the aquifer instead gets transformed into surface runoff, creates problem of soil erosion, flood, and urban floods are largely because of this, causing enormous amount of human misery as well as economic loss. Okay. So I think these are some of the very wasteful things that happens because of the irresponsible disposal of the plastic waste. Okay. And most of these things are such which are preventable without any economic deficit. In fact, it is going to overall make a very positive economic impact at a national level or at a city level and so on and so forth. So I will say that plastics as such from 1960 have grown like anything, 8.7% per year. And today, the whole world is suffering because of the plastic pollution. Okay. So if we are able to control, this is the first low-hanging fruit of controlling plastic that we can easily do by changing behavioral pattern, by really getting to the end user as well as to the all stakeholders to really tell them that how bad it is. Okay. And the most important point which I want to really flag off is that plastics are very, very inimical for human health in more than many ways. Okay. And you know, very recently in Rome, we have found that microplastic, which is nothing but a product of the plastics which is so irresponsibly disposed on the landscape, has even found in the human placenta. So you can see that you are born with a load of plastic, and we do not know how this implications will be in terms of health and later growth and the cognitive ability of the individuals. Okay. Okay, definitely. The plastic waste disposal is indeed a very serious problem out there. Let me bring in Dr. Pandey here. Dr. Pandey, from your perspective, the enormity of the problem here when we talk about single-use plastics and the plastic waste as well, the disposal, the way we dispose of plastics, and as Professor Varshney was pointing out, you know, all of us, the entire human race seems to be enamored with the use of plastics.
Plastic is a problem, and it's an enormous problem, and But the problem with the plastic is the plastic which is mostly going into packaging, either mostly into flexible packaging, kind of use and throw things like those carry bags. Surprisingly, there are many things which we don't think about: earbuds, cigarette butts, things which kind of we use once and throw. And since these are low value plastic, they are not collected. Whatever way they are collected in countries, whether it is formal collection or informal collection, being low value, they are not collected. As a result, they're creating the menace which we are seeing today. They are either going to the landfills, collectors put waste piles on fire, plastic burn in city in winters to basically get respite from cold, causing another kind of problems like air pollution, emission of dioxins and furans if chlorinated plastics are involved. So it's basically these low value plastics which have become a problem globally, which are not collected, which are not very economical for recycling. So not very attractive to waste pickers or waste collectors.
Okay, definitely. This indeed seemingly is the main problem out there. Let me bring in Mr. R. Ramanan as well. Mr. Ramanan, let's focus on the problem and the sheer scale of the problem here as well. So how do you look at this entire situation which we are facing right now as far as plastic is concerned?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to participate in this very important discussion. As Dr. Varshney pointed out, this is a very large problem, not only for India, but for across the rest of the world. More than 300 million metric tons of plastic is being generated. But more importantly, there's a huge industry which is actually generating this, and therefore the problem is not so easy to solve. The problem is we have, for example, just in India itself, more than 43%, according to FICCI reports, we are generating single-user plastic in India. And that is subsisting about 13 lakh workers, is generating 53,000 crores of revenues for companies which are using that. And so this is something that needs a very holistic approach to solve because of the magnitude of the problem, because of the usage, and because of the poor awareness that people have about the harmful effects of plastic. So when I look at this problem, from an Atal Innovation Mission, which is the flagship initiative of the government in Niti Aayog, where we want to promote innovation, entrepreneurship across the country, this has acquired a very important dimension in new startups coming out, not only from technology, leveraging technology which is emerging and which is making it possible, but also making sure that there is a business case behind it, behind responsible consumption as well as responsible production of single-user plastic. So we have broken the entire problem under three categories. Number one, how do you build awareness about the harmful effects of plastic across the length and breadth of the country? So that means students at a school level, ongoing at a school level, they have to be familiar with Sustainable Development Goals and the harmful use of plastic and start reducing the use of plastic, because when you generate demand, then of course people are going to produce more of it. So how do you first build an awareness of the harmful effects? Number two, how do you stimulate innovation so that you are either able to reuse or you're able to refuse or you're able to re-engineer new usages of plastic across industry. So for example, if you're using plastic in one industry and you want to, how do you create a circular economy for that matter, right? And circular economy is not enhancing the production, but making sure that the waste from one is feeding into the requirements of another, and thereby it gets reused, and thereby you are able to prevent further escalation of the problem. Third is re-engineering solutions. So how do you ensure that you re-engineer alternative solutions for packaging industry? And there are many startups now which are very deeply involved in the packaging industry to be able to create alternatives using bamboo, cornstarch, using organic materials, using biodegradable products, so that you are eliminating single-user plastic. And the Honorable Prime Minister has has suggested that we should phase out by 2022 all single-user plastic. So this is a national level call, and therefore we are doing this through 4 initiatives of ours. One is through the tinkering labs at the school level, where we are building awareness about plastic and sustainable development goals and the need to refuse. at the university level, and innovation is being stimulated in startups and incubators. To how do you reuse and how do you come up with alternatives? And third is we are launching challenges called New India Challenges and Arise Challenges, where we are very focused, specifically focusing on circular economy, in which plastic plays a very important role of how do you prevent, or how do you refuse, or how do you reuse, or how do you reimagine a new solution. And we have launched recently a hackathon with between India and Australia, precisely on these challenges of circular economy, and in particular about plastic production and elimination.
Okay, that's quite a lot of steps out there as far as dealing with this problem is concerned. Professor Varshney, as Mr. Ramanan is pointing out, the solution seemingly is awareness, innovation, as well as circular economy. Do you agree? And what more can be done?
I think a lot can be done. It is true that a large number of people are engaged in this single-use plastic, but I think it is time to really persuade them and give them alternative opportunities and engagement in terms of their livelihood. And unless we do that, merely by targeting that by this and this date we are going to do it, which we must do, it will not be able to achieve it with success. And therefore, it is time first to really think of the alternative kind of livelihood for these people. And I will say here, even the incentive given, monetary incentive or otherwise, subsidies, may also be considered very seriously. Because by and large, it is country as a whole which is going to save enormous amount of money, as well as the kind of human pain and deaths that are likely to be because of this. You see, we are underestimating the threat of the plastic. Plastic threats are far more serious than what we have talked about. You see, the microplastic, which are really smaller than 5 millimeter to 0.1 micrometer, they are so small that they are ingested into your lung and they really sit forever life. They become your life burden. And I think the lung capacity gets decreased. And if the country is breathing a kind of air where work capacity of its populace is going to be less, I think it is an enormous amount of economic loss, as well as it is going to be lost to everyone. So I think it is true that in a very macro scale, if we have to see, then the plastic we must get rid of. It is, after all, a hydrocarbon. And we just don't want hydrocarbon to be mined at all, because then we mine hydrocarbon, we create hell of an environmental problem.